All right, hey everybody, welcome. It's late tonight, but and I almost didn't do this video because I'm really tired, and I had a very busy weekend. But you know what? Something happened to me at work today, and it was like this like click in my head, and I had to write it down really fast and remember. You know how sometimes you get these ideas in your head, and it's like this passing amazing genius thing, or it's not you, it's just this thought that goes through, and you either grab onto it or you let it go. Okay, so today I grabbed onto it and I was like, I think I finally figured this out. um and it goes into this whole thing of, let me turn these lights on. Why can't I ever do videos during the day? It's always got to be at night. I guess that's just when I have the quiet time to think. um Anyway, hello, welcome. Uh, Thanks for tuning in, all of you that tune in. I really appreciate that. And also, I want to give a special thank you to everyone that came out to our first art opening in Nashville. I am working with DBO Gallery that's located inside the arcade in downtown Nashville, and we had an amazing uh, group of people that came through for downtown art walk, and it was really great. So thank you for that. But let's get into it. Here we go. So I'm sitting at work today. I'm not going to really tell you where I work, but I will tell you it's this amazing health oriented boutique grocery store. And yeah, it's not always glamorous when you're in the arts and you're dealing with exposing things in the art world and in life that people don't always want to hear. So that's what you do. You maintain and you do weird things in the world to survive and keep putting your best conversation out there in the world because you do it out of love. So I'm sitting there, and for the longest time, okay, there's so many people in what they call themselves a liberal mindset that also believes in this unbelievable utopian concept of communist socialism. And in the past, I was one, in the best sense of the term, to get pulled into this idea. I love the idea of having all of my friends, like there's this movie called Stealing Beauty that I watched when I was a kid. I mean, forget the pedophilia side of it because it is kind of gnarly. It's like this older guy that and all these older guys want to seduce Liv Tyler when she's like 14 years old. But beyond that BS, there's this whole thing of these two artists that live in this beautiful landscape of Italy, and they've got friends that are musicians, writers, artists from all over the world, and they know that at any given time their friends can come and they can stay and just enjoy, and there's music and there's wine and there's art and there's talk and there's fun. And man, that is my jam. That is my jam right there. That's all I truly have ever wanted in my life, and being able to sustain that kind of thing. Well, some people will call that, take it a step further, and they'll go, I want to be on a commune, you know. And they find this like fantasy idea of if everyone could just be equal and we just didn't have to worry about money or whatnot, and we could just exist, and everyone just kind of paid their own dues, everything would be fine. Now, on the surface level, on the fantasy level, that sounds amazing, especially if you've, and it could possibly work. Here's the thing, it could possibly work if people weren't envious, one-upping, power hungry, greedy, feeling that they don't have enough, and kind of murderous. People have that in them. And I'm going to break it down on a very practical level of how we see this every day being proven all the time, and why those of you that love to be on the socialist, communist bend of things, why ultimately it won't work. Okay, now forget capitalism and the whole like taking capitalism into a really gnarly place of like what we see these conglomerates do with Nestle's and all that jazz. Clearly, no, they're not capitalists. They're literally trying to be communistic dictatorships of resources. So don't get it twisted. So let's look in the microcosm of day-to-day life in very, very real terms that we see all the time that prove to us that communism will never work. Let's go to our families. Do you ever notice how like your families always push you to want to be like the best, but don't be better than them? And if you are and you make more, you better give it to them because they made you. Now there are clearly some families in the world that just the parents are totally in tune with what they are putting out there in the world, and they don't put that kind of pressure on their own kids, and they're just really proud to be able to support their kids and make it happen for them. And whatever happens with their kids, they're like, hey, you know, do your thing. If you voluntarily want to give something back to us, that's fantastic, but we're okay. Like, we made our own reality, and we're so proud of you to be able to go beyond and do amazing things in this world. And you're not shamed for it. You're not responsible for us. You don't owe us anything. But love naturally wants to take care of who loves them without any constraints. So it naturally does come back to the parents, you know, because kids in that situation, there's just such a strong love for their parents that it just happens. But that's actually more rare than what normally happens. So let's go into what normally happens, especially in cities like Chicago, New York, Pittsburgh, Atlanta. It seems to like hibernate around cities. I mean, and sure, I'm sure it happens in the suburbs so much, but you know, I don't live there so much, so I don't see that. But what I have seen, I've seen very strongly in New York, in Pittsburgh, this, you are brought into this family. There are certain expectations that you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be, we're supposed to be proud of you, but don't outshine us. And you sure as heck can't change your conversation in life of what we value. Okay? That's communism. It's communism. You're not allowed to be your own self. If you are truly deciding for yourself what makes you happy, and then you become like the black sheep and you're ostracized because you're not playing the right game that your family has bought into, that's communism. That's what the mafia does. The Italian families, the kind of like, you know, the Greek families, that kind of thing. Like, don't go beyond our boundaries. Even if our boundaries and our language and our habits and our thought processes and what we value turns us into monsters at the end of the day, you're going to become a monster like us. You can't change. But also do something that makes us proud. Well, in those terms, what you want to, you know, what makes those kind of people proud? I mean, that's where you got to go and ask, you know. That's communism. I've watched friends. Yeah. Hey, Patrick. Good to hear from you. What's up? Monsters, Inc. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Monsters, Inc. I've watched friends grow when I was growing up, that their families and their community connections, as toxic as they were, if they dared to go beyond that, to try to truly find happiness in their own, yeah, the dervish worlds, absolutely. If they dare to go beyond certain boundaries that the community or the family allowed, even if it truly meant true growth for that individual, they'd be shut down. And I've watched certain friends turn in literally beautiful people that turned into the monsters. They look like their parents now, and their parents were monsters. And the parents don't mind because they don't care if you look like a monster like them. What's going to bother them is that you maintain your innocence and your beauty and your strength and your courage and all kinds of amazing things that you can hold on to in the world to get better. That is going to piss them off no matter what, because it's going to be a true mirror to what they've chosen in life. And they're going to be angry with you that you showed them that they chose something less. So they're either going to tear you down, or you're going to ignore them, and they're just going to have to deal with it. And maybe someday they'll change their mind. Probably won't, because so many people are dug in. But see, this is the idea of communism on a very practical, intimate level. This is how it works. The lowest denominator is how everyone needs to be connected. And how dare you get an original idea or thinking better than somebody else that actually lifts up and creates amazing things because they couldn't do it first. Or then sometimes they'll try to be like you, but they have no idea what you're talking about. They just want to copy because they admire you. But they have no idea what's really going on. And they can't have the humility and the honor to see, you know what, this is an individual that has some really great ideas. We'll respect that. Let them do their thing. And maybe humanity and all kinds of things within their community will be a little bit better. No. Doesn't work that way. So why is there such a negativity towards that? What's the word that twists people when they're in that intimate relationship, or that in front of something that is individual and could possibly raise up? It's called narcissism. There is a huge link between communism and narcissism. I'm gonna break it down, because again, I got totally like just inspired today to put it all together, because I've been researching for a long time why communism, no matter how many times in practicality, it always proves to be the most terrifying government to live under, but yet the American kids since the 1960s have been trying to push this for so long. I don't understand that. And that now I realize. And then another thing that I've been researching for a while is the narcissism thing. Because it's pervasive in our American society, and it's unfortunately been pervasive in a lot of different personal circles that I've been dealing with for a very long time. And I've been concerned that maybe I was turning into one, or I was one, or, you know, who knows, but I just had to keep myself in check. And so I did a lot of research on that too. I found a link. I found a link between the two, and now it makes so much sense. Narcissism, in so many different ways, refuses to see another person's individuality. It refuses. They have to be like me. There's something that happens with narcissistic personality disorder, or people that just tend to be very self-centered. I mean, it doesn't have to be so extreme. When they meet someone that they admire immediately, they want to subconsciously align themselves with that person to feel like they are like that person, because they want to feel that they are like that person. But honestly, they're not in any way, shape, or form. But it's their own narcissism that goes, wow, I just met this person. I want to look like them. I want to talk like them. I want to understand everything they're about. But that wasn't in them before you met that person. It was in that person before you met them. But it wasn't in you until you immediately met that person, and then you're literally trying to take in as much as you possibly can in any given moment so that you can try to identify with yourself as being that person because you admire them. That's narcissism. That's also communism, because communism refuses to acknowledge the individual. It refuses to give honor to individualistic thought and allow that individual to prosper based on their own individual character and what they're bringing to the table. Squish them. If I can't profit from copying you, or if you have this idea, you need to share it with everybody. And then think about how many times you share an idea with someone and it gets watered down by like the third person you share it with. Imagine trying to share it with 1 billion people around the world so we can all be equal. It's going to be like the worst idea ever because everyone's going to have their own personal idea with it. No. It's the originator. It drives me crazy. I honor, my whole life, I love individuals. I love, they don't have to be like me in any way, shape, or form. I don't think anyone's like me, and that's cool. I don't want anyone to be like me. And I love seeing people thriving in truly being who they are in their best sense possible. I love that. And then engaging and talking ideas and all kinds of things like that. That's the excitement of the world. Like, I love that. Who wants to sit there and have a conversation with a freaking like copy or an avatar? It's boring. They don't even know what they're saying. Their safe place is just repeating what they've heard. It has already been accepted. They don't believe anything. They just repeat so they'll be accepted. To me, those people are boring as hell. Like, I lose my mind. I lose my mind after like 5 minutes. I can't handle it. So, narcissism, communism. Another aspect of narcissism is that you are not allowed to outshine the narcissist. And you're not trying to. It's not even a competition. You're just simply being yourself. But see, the narcissist doesn't know how to be themselves. Narcissistic personality disorder, they know how to quickly navigate a room. They're very good at flattery. They know how to say certain things to get people to like them very quickly. But there's no real accountability of being a friend in the long run. There's no commitment to really truly doing something for somebody else. They just feed off of the admiration of the moment of people that they're flattering. And then behind closed doors, they're a totally different person. And everything has to be going towards them. And they have no compassion for the other person who they think they're entitled to siphon their energy from. Okay? That's communism too. Because it's like the narcissist is a microcosm mentality of what communism is in a societal level. I'm going to say that again because I've never heard that from anybody else. And it makes so much sense to me personally. And so I'm going to say it again. Narcissism in an individual is the microcosm of what a society is like on a macro level. It's all about the bigger picture, which is always them. One narcissist told me once, Kim, it's not about you. Let's look at the big picture. Me. That's how a narcissist thinks. And that's also how communism thinks. But they sell it to the people of saying you're doing it for the great good for the whole humanity. But there has to be one mentality that the humanity gets like, when you say you're doing everything for the greater good, that sounds nice, right? It sounds really good. And for people that have this innate guilt that they shouldn't have for existing, okay, you shouldn't have any guilt for existing. But there's a lot of push for that in the last 40 years. Screw that, but it's there. So they'll make you feel really guilty for existing, and then they'll say, well, you need to do something for the greater good for everybody. Are you telling that to MS-13? Are you telling that to the human traffickers? Are you telling that to the mafia? Are you telling it to the psychopaths in Wall Street and Nestle's and all that other stuff? No, you guys buy their crap and you listen to their movies and you go to Vegas and you spend money on their gambling things and you, come on. There's a bigger mentality that will selfishly always prosper under communism, that markets it by telling the masses that you're doing something for the greater good of humanity. But there has to be someone on the top, or a philosophy on the top, that's usually pretty gnarly. Because here's the thing, in a free society, you live and let live. You respect individuals, you negotiate energy. I really like what you do here. I really admire your conversation here. I admire your art. I admire what you build. I admire what you're creating. And this is what I have to give. And the person that they're saying that they admire goes, wow, I like how you do this. I like how you do that. Let's negotiate value exchange on a very respectful level. Like, this is like the good part of capitalism. This is the ideal capitalism, where you just value each other as much as possible because you want to see the benefit in coming together and working together for good for your individuals, because you yourselves work together really well. In communism, it doesn't work that way. Let's go into inner cities. Okay, now if you don't, because sometimes people have families that are really cool, and they don't think like, I don't understand what you're saying, Kim, about the family thing. All right, fine. Let's go into inner city, because this is something that I've been seeing since I was in high school. Gangs. Kids will do anything to be accepted, especially when they're in a broken family. Gangs are a perfect microcosm of communism. There's no personal voice. You have to adhere by the party line. You've got to be part of the party. These are the rules. If you don't follow the rules, you're dead. You're ostracized. And it can get really gnarly. You know, I mean, I remember when the whole Crypt blood thing came out in the early 90s. I was in high school in the inner city there, and that was just gnarly. We lost like 50 kids in high school to all that stupidness. But people will align themselves. They very willingly give up their own individuality to be accepted into something that they think is better. Communism. And all of a sudden, they're asked to, will you give your life to this? Do I have a choice? Not really, because you joined the club. Oh, I don't have a choice. I guess I gotta do it. Yeah, you do. That's communism. It doesn't work on a practical level. It always siphons off your individual entity of being able to critically think and navigate through life to decide for yourself what is the best thing for you. Most people don't want the best for you. They only want, they say it, but when it really comes down to it, they don't want you to be better than them. So sometimes you'll have people who will sabotage you. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but I have. They're threatened. threatened. Competition, image, greed, paranoia, all kinds of different things. You'll have people that will say, I just want what's best for you. But what they tell you, I've literally had people close to me try to deny everything that I've ever done in the art world or in my own life, in many different lives that I've had. They've tried to belittle all of it and tell me that my best conversation was being a cleaning lady. I'm not even joking. You know how effed up that is? That's communism. So narcissism plays into that, because the narcissist, you know, when you hear someone say that, like, I mean, for those of you that know me, can you imagine? Could you imagine me telling you that? You know that would never come out of my mouth. I'm the kind of person that I love to understand what people are really into, what makes them really happy, and really encourage them to follow that. What really gives them that joy. I mean, for God's sake, I'm the artist that came up with the dream map, for God's sake. And yet I have people in my personal life that tell me that that is worthless. And all the things that I've ever done is worthless. And my best conversation in this life is to be a cleaning lady. Think about that. Wow. Narcissism, communism equals bullshit. If you're not a generous person, if you're very self-centered and you're always in competition with everybody no matter what, you're always going to try to tear people down because you feel so insecure that you need to literally destroy people's hearts and their dreams so that you don't look so bad in whatever bullshit you're in. That's a sad place to be in. That's a really sad, weak place to be in. My position, and I will always commit to this no matter where I'm at. Whenever I meet someone, wherever they're at, I love to encourage them in doing the most amazing things they could possibly do. I want them to be as successful as possible. It doesn't have to always deal with money, because right now money is really screwy. The source of money and where it comes from is really screwy. So there's wealth, though, in being... Here's the thing, for me, with wealth is not necessarily your dollar in your bank account. Your wealth is this, like, portfolio of the time that you spend on doing what you really love, the people that you're around the most, and at what level are they as committed to you in bringing you up as you are to them, and you got that tribe, you know, and there's just that, you're really making things happen on a heart level, a tribe level, on a mental level, to make the world a stronger place, a better place, you know. It doesn't have nothing to do with money. You know, the quality time that you spend with the right people, and when you look back on your life, you can be proud of the choices that you made. You can be proud of the character that you have. You know, regardless of if some people want to misunderstand it, that doesn't matter. You know you. You know what your intent was. They don't. A lot of people that, especially when you have a really good intent about something, there are certain people that, because of their own character, they could never really understand that you could do something out of a pure will of love or care about someone without wanting anything in return, except the satisfaction of knowing that you've lifted somebody up when they needed to. when they needed it to get to that better place. Those people that want to destroy your character, they're just showing themselves of how small they are because they never really knew you. They don't really know what you're about. They can only understand you in their own terms. So therefore, their expression of defining who you are only exposes their own personal mental state of what they would be thinking if they did what you did based on their perception of what you're doing. Woo. Here we go. So, with that being said, you align yourself with the people that speak like right now. I was so programmed for a long time to be around people that always saw the worst in me because it was control for them. And I'd have to prove that I wasn't this bad person that they just inherently had to think I was, because they just always innately were threatened by whatever I was doing, which wasn't doing anything but just being myself. That's narcissism. That's communism. Communism attacks anyone just simply being themselves. It's not a sustainable reality. What is a sustainable reality as far as what quote-unquote commune goes or community goes? You can't force other people to like you or accept you based on fear. So what the current liberal side is doing is trying to force everyone to and demand that everyone accept everybody based on the fear of, like, if you don't, we're going to call you all kinds of names and we're going to isolate you from society. That's bullshit. That's a really shitty thing to do. And it's also like the worst way of making friends. I mean, like, think about taking that kind of concept that they're doing on like a societal level and putting it into the high school or putting it into like a neighborhood. You'd be the bully. You the ones calling themselves the victims. In actuality, you're acting out being a bully. Because the way that people truly find their own friends and people that they just jive with are people that mutually respect each other. It doesn't matter what color, creed, whatever. Like, honestly, on a superficial level, the last thing I would think at this point anyone gives a crap about is your color or your eye color or your hair color or whatever. No one gives a shit. They care about your brain. They care about what you're thinking. And guess what? You won't be accepted if you're constantly thinking gnarly thoughts about everybody. For those people that are like really down with trying to do really good stuff in the world and like just putting out positive energy and really wanting to have their really good crew of friends be on that same level where there's goodwill, there's trust, there's compassion, there's honest conversation. Those that are always trying to destroy or like think the worst of each other, guess what? Yeah, you won't be accepted in those circles. And you can't force your way into it either by being an idiot. That's communism. Guess what? There's such a thing as free will. And people are going to find each other, and there's going to be some people that like each other, and there's going to be some people that don't. That's all right. And if you find that you're getting unliked by more people than you are being liked, because maybe you're being kind of a, you know what? Or maybe you're being unliked because the majority of society is trying to be brainwashed into this communistic zombie mentality. And in that case, cool. Like, that kind of rejection, I'm totally down with. I'm fine with that. The zombies can reject me all day long. I hope they reject you too, because you're actually a free thinker. So we're at 35 minutes, and I'm going to cut this off. So I'll probably talk another time about this, because it really was just an epiphany for me tonight. But I think more I let this settle in my system and think about it more, I'll find more. But think about that. Communism, narcissism, see it in the family dynamic, see it in your community, see it in how people don't like to go down in the ship by themselves. And 9 times out of 10, like if you're in a community, especially that's involved with some gnarly stuff, they never want anyone to rise above it. They try to make you feel guilty about going beyond some bullshit community that you grew up in that was always like super gnarly, people talking nasty language to each other and telling each other, you know, you gotta be real. You gotta be real. And that keeps you down. That's crazy. Your real friends, your real community, the people that truly have your back are the ones that, wherever they're at, even if they're on the low totem pole, they're encouraging you to go as far as you possibly can individually. Those are the people that you listen to. Those are the people that really have your back. And that's all I gotta say tonight. I hope you guys have a great night. All right.